It's nice to be with you again. This is State Rep Kate Lipper-Garabedian. Thank you for joining me for our Conversations with Kate. I'm thrilled today to be talking with my colleague in the House of Representatives and the House Chair of the Joint Committee on Elder Affairs, Tom Stanley. Thanks for being with us, Tom.
Oh, thank you very much, Kate. It's been quite an honor and a pleasure for me to help chair the Elder Affairs Committee with you in your role as Vice Chairperson.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. It was, an honor to get to work with you and including on this committee. And you've been so inclusive and supportive of me being vice chair. And I've really appreciated the opportunity to get to learn a lot from you and the committee through this process. So I think we'll just spend a few minutes today getting to talk with you a little bit about who you are and your background and then the important work of the committee. So for folks who may not know a lot about Tom Stanley here in the 32nd Middlesex District, why don't you give us just a quick snapshot of your professional background and sort of the district you represent and the work that you've done there over the years and maybe a little bit about your family.
Sure. So I've lived in Waltham all my life, and I grew up in the political world. My family has always been involved in the community, either running for office or on all sorts of volunteer civic, boards and commissions and activities. My father was a city councilor and state representative and also mayor of Waltham for 14 years. And I got the bug, and I call it an illness that runs in the family. But so I discovered that that's what I wanted to do. And I went to, I graduated from Mass Bay Community College, then Bentley University, and went to get a master's degree in public administration from Suffolk University. And I began my public employment career, working for the state auditor's office, and also running for city council in Waltham and being successful with that. And then working for the House of Representatives for the Post Audit Bureau, and got to work on a lot of great cases to save taxpayers money. And ultimately, I ran for state representative and was successful. So for like the last 20 plus years, I've been a state representative and city councilor in Waltham.
Right.
Which there's a history in Waltham of doing that. It goes back at least 70 years.
Did your father do that? Did he wear both hats?
He was on the council, but it was only 2 years in the House of Representatives.
Okay.
And I've been there like 20.
Right.
Anyway, I'm married to my wife, Kim, and I have two children, one from my first marriage. Ryan is 27, and he works out in Seattle.
Right. We talked about that.
UMass Amherst. And our other son, Parker, is at UMass Amherst right now. So
that's really neat.
They're both doing very well. And so my wife, Kim, and I are kind of at the stage now where we have a little bit more freedom and really enjoying it. And we got a pandemic puppy named Regan.
Yes, keeping you very busy.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right, keeping you young. It's neat to hear about the way in which you've worked in a field that your father also worked in. I didn't have quite the same experience, but I had a little taste of it when I was in college. I wrote for the sports page of my college paper, and my father, for his career from several decades, was a sports columnist for the Richmond paper. I went to UVA, and he would cover some of the same games that I was covering. And it was really a thrill to get to see him at the halftime, back in the press box, working on our stories or asking questions at the conference, press conference afterwards. I don't mean to speak for you, but I think it would be personally gratifying to work on things that I cared a lot about as a state rep, but also know that my father had come before me and sort of thinking about the through lines there.
Yes. And, just in particular, representing your community, it's an unbelievable honor.
Yes.
And I really treasure it, and just helping people. And I've learned a lot of valuable lessons from my both parents, and how to, respond to constituents and get back right away and try to do everything you can to help people. And I know you do the same.
Yes.
And that's the bread and butter work. That's not, at the core, that's what we're doing. We're helping people work through all the bureaucracy. We're trying to make the bureaucracy better and more efficient to help residents of the Commonwealth.
Yep. And you can draw on your work in the auditor's office and then obviously your longevity in the State House. I appreciated when we first started talking this year after, we got our committee assignments, that you had some really helpful advice for me as I'm starting out my career. So it's my first time being a vice chair and it's your first time being a chair. And we've been working in a committee that couldn't be more important right now in the middle of the pandemic, elder affairs, including, as we saw, just devastating impacts in our skilled nursing facilities and other senior residences. And as we deal with, a disease that is, really dangerous for folks as they age. So maybe we could turn a little bit and talk about the committee and some of the themes that have emerged and the work that we've done to ensure that our state law framework and the investments we're making are really responsive and supportive of our seniors. So do you want to maybe turn there and talk a little bit about how this first year has gone for the committee and your role as the leader of it on the House side?
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you just reminded me, my mother was just released out of a nursing home right before all the lockdowns occurred. But, as we discussed and we focus on through the committee, we realized that, no group in the Commonwealth has endured more loss and hardship over the past year and a half plus than elder citizens and the people that care for them.
Exactly.
The pandemic has it's taught us a lot of hard lessons about who is essential in to securing a better, healthier future for our elder citizens. And, we recognized as a committee that there are important steps to take and programs to fund in order to accomplish all these goals. And, in our many meetings together and our staffs, we talked about focusing on the fact that seniors need increased mental health support to help bring them through these unprecedented times of stress and insecurity and loss. And, the workforce needs investments that recognize human service workers as the essential element that they are.
Right.
And, properly funding nursing facilities and making a commitment to ensure best practices are in place in all of the nursing homes. No one wants to go there, but if we need it, we want to make sure it's a safe place.
Exactly.
And, finally, continuing to identify opportunities to improve services and protect older adults in the weeks and months to come. And we took that focus into for our first budget cycle, you and I and the rest of the committee.
That's right.
And we were able to increase the elder affairs budget by over $25 million. And the Enough Pay to Stay initiative that we fought for, that increased 37% at $27 million to enhance the rates paid to home care agencies that contract with all the aging and service access points across the Commonwealth. We increased the SHINE program that provides free health insurance information and counseling to all Mass residents. It's a very critical program, by over $1 million of what the governor proposed. And then, of course, additional funding for the geriatric mental health services and congregate housing, including almost $1 million additional funding for natural occurring retirement communities. And finally, an increase in funding for elder protective care services. So that was, our work in the budget, which I thought was, very successful.
Yes, and that you're referencing our fiscal year 22 budget, which the year began on July 1st and continues, obviously, through the first half of 2022.
Right.
Right.
And we also had 5 public hearings on over 70 bills, and we sat down together and categorized what would be most efficient to have the bills in what hearings. And we had nursing home bills in one hearing and assisted living residence bills in another, home care bills focused of another hearing, and protective services as well. And one of the more intriguing and important bills that we're considering is the Common Sense Bill.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that for folks who aren't aware of it. Yeah.
In a nutshell, nursing homes are allowed to do certain things, and assisted living facilities are allowed to do other things. And during COVID, we, with the governor and the legislature, with the emergency executive orders, suspended that and allowed assisted living facilities to provide these other services, like providing eye drops care, or helping assist in giving medicine and things of that nature. Because we've heard too many stories of mistakes in that process.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that our assisted living facilities have really been helping people live longer. 33% less in the last 15 years. 33% less folks have moved from assisted living facilities to nursing homes. So they're just living longer.
Right.
But that's where the dilemma is, where, should we allow assisted living facilities to change a little bit of, what they were originally made, allowed, to provide services for. And it gets complicated because there's, a lot of different stakeholder groups, nurses, the state administration, excuse me, the elder affairs, executive office.
Right. Right. One thing that I appreciated learning more about in this role, as we've discussed, my whole professional background has been in education, and now I'm really focusing on the other end of the life spectrum. And every state sort of does governance models differently. But obviously, not obviously, what I've learned is there are different state agencies, one regulating skilled nursing facilities, a different one having oversight over assisted living residences. And I'm sure, over time, we've been really attuned to the needs and probably some of the barriers or distinguishing factors that have been established in state law were around the whole intention behind protecting our seniors, ensuring that they were receiving appropriate care for strong healthcare outcomes. And then in COVID, we've had an opportunity to essentially live in a different dynamic with these flexibilities that were created to be responsive to the pandemic. But we may have learned some important lessons that moving forward we might want to codify in state law, including in respect to this type of bill. What might be better, how might we better serve seniors safely in the home that they live in if we allow for greater access to certain types of care within the assisted living residences, right?
Right.
Right.
And so we've been working, trying to get everyone on the same page. The representatives for the assisted living facilities and the elder affairs executive office, which regulates them.
Mm-hmm.
And with the new services the assisted living facilities want, they normally fall under the public health department, and so we need to work out which state executive office it belongs.
Sure.
And also how we can provide better oversight and more clarity for residents and their families, and what assisted living facilities provide. Because right now it's very difficult to make hay with all the various offerings that assisted living facilities provide. And we're looking at maybe a certification process to provide more comfort for families as well, to know what assisted living facilities are providing how well they're doing it.
Right. And something that resonates with me that you mentioned earlier, and I'm glad that your mother has done well during the pandemic. And I hadn't understood how close in time it was that she had been in a skilled nursing facility and then COVID hit, that there is really an important role and that we do need skilled nursing facilities to continue to operate. And so we have to be thinking as well about the financial models that make that possible, including for the workforce. And I know we had a committee hearing also sort of on workforce bills and support for these essential workers who are, under tremendous strain and stress, nonetheless came to work during the pandemic to support our parents, our grandparents, our aunts, uncles, and others in the community. So,
sorry for the downtime. I'm got a bit of a cough, but
no worries. So,
yes.
And so maybe also before we just turn and talk a little bit about what's left to do in the committee, we also just completed, a COVID-19 recovery bill. And you were able to speak a little bit about the investments that we made in that on the House bill on the floor a couple of weeks ago. So some really important supports for workforce in terms of some bonus compensation for those who showed up during the pandemic on site, including many of our workers supporting elders. We also have some important investments in various residences. So do you want to just quickly summarize those?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, just that, we recognized what was important at the beginning of the year as a committee. And when we had this opportunity with all this federal money known as, the opera bill, we, advocated for funding for workforce investments, and namely bonus pay. And it's very difficult to retain a lot of these employees. They have to work at least 2 or 3 jobs. They don't get paid a lot. And so the bonus pay is going to really help to do just that. There's also, funding for hospitals, community health centers, and nursing facilities.
Right.
As well. And I may need medical help myself now.
Oh, goodness.
No. I'm joking. But,
okay.
And also funding for housing, and in particular for our, public housing residences,
right,
that need really, improvements. So we've done a lot. We've dedicated a lot of money towards the needs of elders in Massachusetts.
Absolutely. And I know that you've been advocating strongly for that as the bill was put together. So I'm grateful for your leadership in this space. So there's a lot that goes into being a chair, obviously, in terms of the legislative hearings that we've overseen with the more than 70 bills. You've spoken about both our fiscal year 22 budget as well as the COVID-19 recovery ARPA budget. And now we're making decisions about how to handle, and respond to all of the different proposals of our colleagues, including the common sense bill that we've spoken about. So I'm assuming, this is my first time being on committee, but, as we turn to 2022, we're going to have to take action on all the different bills so that they proceed through the process. And I'm confident that there will be some really important themes that are underscored in the bills that we're, working hard on. And obviously you're also right on a number of commissions in your role as chair. There's the Elder Malnutrition Commission, one on home care licensing, and another on LGBTQ aging population. So a lot of work going on. Is there anything in particular that's really a priority for you in the next year of our 2-year session?
Well, they're all a priority, really. And before I forget, you have also provided an additional resource for us in a fellow from a well-known university to help with the committee and focus in on, the themes that we are working on.
Absolutely.
In particular, nursing home task force as well. But, the LGBTQ commission, the interesting thing about that is a lot of the seniors grew up in a different time when they couldn't really be out there in the community or, out of their closet, so to speak. And then, things changed and they've lived a much better life, thank God. But now, as some of them are going into aging facilities, they're finding that it's kind of like going back in time, and they're feeling, some discrimination and so forth, and they're afraid to really talk about really who they are. And so we're addressing a lot of those issues.
Right.
So it's not something that I, would have thought of if it wasn't for this commission that I was on, just for the fact that I was chair of the Home Elder Affairs Committee.
Right. It's evidence also, really that, sometimes we'll pass a law that establishes this type of commission. And for folks who maybe don't have a front row seat to the policy making, it really is informative for the work that we do when we think about bills that come before us or the needs that might exist, to be able to participate in these commissions and task forces that are focused on important issues and that have representation from community members, from LGBT, in this case, from LGBTQ seniors, from, different residential models, so that we're all meeting together and having an opportunity to discuss what are current needs and how can the legislature be responsive. Right.
And you bring up a good point. These commissions are often, a valuable resource in coming to consensus on what bills we should pass and laws we should change.
Exactly.
And so that's what's happening. Basically, on the commission, there are different stakeholders,
right,
and legislators to work, and people from the administration to work things out. And that brings up another commission, the Home Care Licensing Commission. The home care workers going into people's homes, there is no license that they have to get in order to do their work. That anyone can hang a shingle and say they're, providing home care services. So the commission was formed again to come up with best practices and, not pass legislation that would have unintended consequences. So we have stakeholders from all the different sides of the issue. And we're currently, so we had public hearings on the bills that applied to it. The commission work is all public. And we're now, in the stage of kind of negotiating between them to see, what they, are really upset about or what we can change or what have you, and to try to come forward and file legislation to have more oversight and in this particular case, the licensing for home care workers. So folks can have a more secure feeling that they're being provided good services for their loved ones when they hire people.
Sure.
And so we're, in the middle of that. And also the statewide nursing home task force, which I was not a part of because I was not chair of the committee at the time. And they came out with their report right before COVID hit.
Yes.
But we are hoping to tackle that a little bit more. And, they've identified areas where there's a need for change. Currently excess bed capacity in the system, structural changes to the industry are needed to ensure longer-term financial sustainability, and percentage of nursing facilities are low quality, chronically low quality facilities are especially troubling. Most nursing facilities are struggling financially, and the margins have fallen over the last few years. And we've learned from COVID that we don't want too many people residents in the same room, so
Right.
so we can prevent COVID spread. So there's a lot of important things to consider, and we're hoping to come to a consensus on the task force recommendations and to implement new changes. And all these things that we've mentioned, like a home care licensing, like I said, there's never been licensing for that group. And also for the Common Sense Bill, what that's trying to accomplish, there hasn't been any changes to well over 25 years to what assisted living facilities are allowed to provide for services, and how who oversees them, and what changes may need to be done there. So, it's important work that we're doing.
Absolutely.
And we're very lucky to have this opportunity during a time when I think everyone is recognizing the importance of elder care and the care workers that take care of them.
That's right. And I think all of this is done with, the purpose of both, dignity in the workforce as well as agency in your aging process. And so it's really great to be able to work with you this session and learn from you. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So thank you for meeting with me for a little while today to talk about the Elder Affairs Committee and your work as a state representative. Maybe we'll just end with a final hardball question. What's a dish you're most looking forward to eating this Thanksgiving?
Well, the turkey, of course, but I'd have to say, probably, my sister makes some really good stuffing.
Oh, great.
That's the family favorite, so.
Yep. So it's stuffing to you. Sometimes in the South, we call it dressing. And I'm looking forward to my mother's sweet potato casserole. So that should be good.
Nice.
Yes. All right. Well, Chair Stanley from Waltham, thank you so much for meeting with me today. It was really an honor to get to hear from you about your thoughts on the Elder Affairs Committee, your work as a state legislature, in the state legislature. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you this session.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's great working with you.
Great. All right. Well, you be well. And I'm sure we've met once in person so far, but I'll see you again soon on Zoom, if not in person. So be well.
Right.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.